Hello, welcome back to Surface Explore Record, where I'm stepping you through building an application using my three-step process that allows me to be in control of what decisions the AI makes instead of letting the AI just make its default decisions. The three-step process is surface, that is, surface the decisions, explore, that is, explore the options related to each decision, and then finally record, that is, record those decisions. The reason that we're doing that is later that we'll give the AI the recordings, the records, so that it can use my decisions to create the app instead of its defaults. Right now, we're still in the idea stage. We've so far created the business requirements document, very important document that explains why we're building this app. And currently, we are building the product requirements document, or the PRD, and this is explaining what we're building. This is describing the app itself, but not getting into the design or the technology behind it. So let's jump over to VS Code and Claude Code, and then we'll continue building our product requirements document, or our PRD. I'll see you there. Okay, so here we are with Claude Code running in a terminal inside VS Code. Let's go back and review what we've done in the previous episodes. So far, we started in episode 1 by creating all of these business decisions that will help us define our application to the AI. Then in the second episode, we created our business requirements document. The business requirements document is very important because it's telling the AI why we're planning to build this. We also created a user's journeys document that we use to create the business requirements document, and a business overview document. The business overview document is very similar to the business requirements document. The only difference is that it's more of a narrative form. This is a document that can help you explain your application to other people. Very important, like if you are looking for investors or funding, or you just want to be able to tell your family and your friends what you're making. Now, in the third episode, we turned from business requirements to product requirements. And we created all of these decisions that we're going to use in creating our product requirements document. And the reason these are important is so that when we're ready to create our product, our application, then we know how to tell the AI what decisions we've made, that need to go into building this application. So in this episode, our final document will be a product requirements document. Now remember, it's not the document per se that's important. It's the decisions that are going into that's building those documents, because those are my decisions instead of the AI's decisions. I could have just told the AI, hey, build a task management system for my team. And I've done that as an exercise in the past, and the AI goes through and it builds an application. But there would be several silent decisions that the AI makes that I don't know about. So what I found through years of the software development and then using AI for the last couple of years to help with development is that following these same steps, while it may seem slow at the beginning, it actually speeds things up. So this is a case of where you slow down to speed up. So let's start with the first prompt that we're going to use to begin building our PRD from the decisions that we've already made. So notice what I said: review the product decisions, and I tell it where to find that. I tell it what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a product requirements document, and then what I want to know is, besides these decisions that I've already made, are there any additional information, any additional documents that we should create first to go into the PRD? So let's kick Claude off, and I'm going to explain what I'm doing here. Now, in the previous episode, I showed you how to create decision records. And decision records are a great way to make decisions with AI and record those decisions, stepping through the surface, explore, record. So you surface the decisions, you explore the options, and then you record those decisions in the decision records. But this is just another way to do it. You may decide that you don't want to go through and do decision records at every step. That's quite all right. One way to do this is start by asking the AI, okay, what kind of information should I use to build a PRD? And that's what Claude is doing for us right now. It's going through and looking at what information we already have, and it's going to say, okay, here's a list of some things that I recommend that you include in your PRD that's not in the decision records. So we're going to pause for a minute, and I'll come back when Claude is finished. Okay, I'm back. Notice that Claude looked through my documents. It found what I already had. It found the business layer information. It found the product layer information. And then it said, really, for a PRD, you need this additional information. And it recommends a detailed feature spec, information architecture navigation, success metrics, and acceptance criteria. And it goes on and on with 8 additional documents that it recommends. Now, there's something that I've learned about when I'm working with AI. AI, and especially LLM-based AI, such that Claude Code, it tends to go beyond what you ask it to do. And by the way, this is one of the reasons that AI agents get into so much trouble. You tell it to do one thing, and it sort of tries to guess your next step, and it goes beyond what you tell it to do, and often that's not what you want it to do. That's why it's so important that you limit not just your prompt context for an AI agent, but even its capability of doing certain things in different steps so that it can't go beyond what you want it to do. But for this one, all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, are you sure that all of this information should be included in a PRD, or should some of it come in more of a design document or a technical document? So we're going to let Claude chew through this information, and I'll come back when it's done. Okay, so Claude Code is finished, and it's given me what it considers should be in a PRD and what should not be in a PRD. Now remember, my previous prompt asked for PRD information, but Claude went above and beyond, and it gave me much more information than I needed. So now we've narrowed it down, and it said this is what it really needs for a PRD. It doesn't need this information, this part, the design documents, the technical documents. That comes later, and we'll cover that in other phases. So now we've sifted out some of that, and I'm going to tell Claude, okay, I'm only doing this app for demonstration purposes, so I want to just do one of these documents, and I want to create the document for the information architecture and navigation, and I tell it that I want it in Markdown format and where I want to put that in my docs product folder. Now, again, if you're doing this for a real application, for a production application, you would want to sift through each of those. You want to work through each of those documents, create a document, not just create it, but go through and review it, and make sure that everything that Claude puts in it is what you want there. That's the part where you play a key role in making sure that the decisions are your decisions and not just Claude's decision. Now, again, I'm just doing this for demonstration, so I'm showing you how you can create these documents, a first draft. It's your job then to go back and just read through them. Now, here's the thing to remember. You don't have to understand everything that's in it, because if you come to something and you don't understand, you can ask the AI, okay, explain this to me. Tell me why I need it in this document. What would happen if I don't put it in there? What are some options for changing it? This is the way that you explore those options to help you make the decisions. Now, Claude has already finished making our, or is finishing making our information architecture and navigation. Now, the reason that I picked this document is that I know the next step, the next phase of this, once we get out of the idea phase, is the design phase. And so I'm going to need this navigation and the page information to feed back into Claude to say, hey, these are the pages that's going to be in my application. Give me some options for designing this. But now let's just go through and look at our information architecture document. Here's the document that Claude created. It has a lot of information in it. Notice that we have a page inventory. This is what's most important for me right now. That's why I wanted to do it. So we've got authentication pages, dashboard pages, project pages. So everything is there. Now, like I said, if this was a real project, I would read through these. I would make sure this is everything like I want. But for this just demonstration, it's okay to go with what Claude created for this one. And the next thing we're going to do, now that we have that document, and in a real project we would have the other documents as well, we're going to tell Claude, now use this information. So use the decision records, use the information architecture navigation document, and then I'm telling you just use general information because I didn't create the other documents. Normally I would set it only to use those documents. And I would say make a product requirements document, a PRD. Now, a PRD is very important. In fact, many vibe coders who began even just months ago just vibing, just prompting and saying to Lovable or Bolt or something, make an app that does this, they've learned that that's not enough. And so one of the first things they've learned about is a PRD, or product requirements document. So it is a very important document, but it's only one step in the process. And you know that I am taking my time into it. I'm going extremely slow. This is now the fourth episode, although I think each episode is only about 15 minutes, so it's really only been about an hour. There is no reason that you couldn't work through this idea phase in part of an afternoon or early morning or whatever you wanted to do, and then continue into the design and the technical phases that are going to come later. So don't feel like that you have to take weeks and weeks to do this. I'm showing you how you can use AI to do a software life cycle, a software development life cycle routine that's been in use for decades, and you can speed it up, but still get some of the same benefits. So I'm going to take a break here while Claude does his work and creates our PRD, and I'll be back when he's done. Okay, so Claude is finished with our PRD. Notice it gives us a summary of what it created. 21 sections it said, but let's take a look. We don't want to just take Claude's word for it. We always want to review the documents that the AI creates for us, treat this as a first draft, and then we go through and make it our own. So here are each of the sections. Notice this is very important. It referenced the documents that I gave it. So if you go back later and you wonder, why did we put this in the PRD, you can go back and look at these reference documents that we have. This is why the record part of the Surface Explorer record is so vital. You now have a history, you have a record of what you're creating and why you created it. We go through each of the 21 sections. Notice that there's plenty of detail here. A lot of information here that we can give to the AI later in order to create our app. Now, really, this finishes the idea phase of the software development lifecycle. Next will be the design phase, and as I mentioned earlier, some of the information that we created in this episode will go into the design phase so that we can tell the AI what needs to be in our app, and the AI can give us options for how to design that. I want to add one more thing here. Typically, in a real project at this point, I would have the AI do an internal assessment of these documents. Make sure that what it created actually matches, is actually consistent with the other documents. I do this at each step along the way, even before I do my human review, because many times the AI will add things or skip things, and if you have it go through step by step, go through each document step by step, tell it not to guess or not to assume, and actually compare and make sure that everything is internally consistent, you will usually find some places where you need to make adjustments. That's a normal part of the process of working with AI. In fact, it's a normal part of the process of working in software development anyway. So just consider that to be part of your process as you go through these steps. Again, it doesn't have to be a long time. The AI is still speeding up the process, but if you slow down at this point, it will especially speed it up at the end when you're ready to deploy your app into production, when you're ready to bring users in, when you're ready to extend it with new features later. So think about this Surface Explorer Record, how you can use that to build the decisions that are going to go into your application. And here I've shown you how to do that to create a product requirements document. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you join me next time as we create design decisions and design documents.